I was 22 when I started the DEA Academy.
Okay, so 22. Never been in the military, no police experience. I'm pretty sure your experience is probably about the same as mine. How is it? Shock to the system? What's going on with you at 22 when you're at the academy?
Oh, I was super excited. I thought it was the greatest thing in the world. I'm here. We're going to work out. We're going to get guns. We're going to do the Lord's work, as they used to say. And I was very fired up about everything, to the point that my classmates, we had one guy actually younger than me, but everybody else was probably about 27 or older in the class, with several guys in their early 30s. And these guys had been former law enforcement officers or coming from federal agencies or military officers. And they were like, kid, chill out. It's not exciting. We're going for a 5-mile run this morning. And we went through in wintertime. It's not exciting. We're going to the range and it's 30 degrees and snowing outside and we're carrying revolvers you have to load singly when your hands are freezing. Because at that time, even Quantico was very strict. Couldn't wear any gloves. The only thing you could wear over your uniform was a sweatshirt. And if you're going to the range, they had these old green Army field jackets that you could wear that said FBI on the back. And that was the only thing you could wear at the range. There was nothing exotic. So it was pretty cold out there on the range.
Yeah.
But I was young and pumped up and just loved it. But I got a lot of flack from the older guys because, and I understand it. I was fortunate to get hired at that age. 1986, 87, President Reagan declared the war on drugs with an intensity, upped DEA's budget, and DEA was ordered to get a lot of training classes going through. And so we were cranking 10, 12 classes through a year at the time with an average of about 35 students. So I got in that time. And you had other guys, though, who had been trying to get into DEA, being police officers or military officers, and had a hard time and had to wait several years. And here's this guy right out of college, and literally less than a year from when I graduated, I'm in the academy.
Yeah.
So it was different. Fortunately, our oldest guy of our class, who came from San Diego also, a gentleman by the name of Alan Wynn, was he was a friend and kind of a big brother to me in the academy. I was one of the youngest. He was, I think, the oldest, or the second oldest in the class, and he was a very good man. Unfortunately, he was killed later during his career as an agent in a helicopter crash.
So in 87, when you're going through the academy, you guys are carrying wheel guns then?
Yep. Smith & Wesson Model 13s, 3-inch barrel.
Wow. So how long are you on before they start because so I had a SIG, but I know that the older guys before me had Smith & Wesson semis. How long before you graduated, got in the field or whatever, did you start to transition to a semi?
So, interesting story. I'm a gun guy. I've been a firearms instructor since 1989.
Okay.
So we were issued a .357 Magnum 3-inch barreled Smith & Wesson. Great gunfighting gun for plainclothes carry. But during this time, DEA was evaluating a lot of different pistols. So while we were in the academy, we as a class, Basic Agent Class 48, we started training with the submachine guns. They had yet to be issued to the field. We also started training with semi-automatic pistols, and we trained with the Smith & Wesson. I think we did a week on them. We did a week on the 6 hours, and we did a week on the Glocks, which were very new.
Oh, okay.
At the time.
Okay.
But we were kind of guinea pigs, I think, for what they were going to issue. And I want to say about a year after I graduated from the academy, they started issuing semi-automatic pistols. DEA was one of the first agencies, I think the first federal agency to ever issue semi-automatic pistols. And they did a unique thing at that time. They would rotate the different classes with different makes of pistols, with the theory being, their theory was that no one could identify them as being a federal narcotics undercover because it wasn't a set type of pistol. So that went around till they settled on the issued pistol. For a while, it was a 6-hour consistently till they went to the Glock.
Yeah.
But going back to the initial part of your question, so I got out of the academy in May of 1987. And a week later, I was carrying my privately owned SIG P226 9
Oh,
millimeter.
okay.
So it went right to it.
Uh, Okay, so when you were carrying the wheel guns at the academy, did they still have, and I don't know whether this was from the very beginning, our course of fire was a little bit from the 50, 10 rounds from the 50.
It
Did
was
they do that for
it
you?
was all from the 50, and I'm proud to say I'm also a member of the Possible Club that I shot with a revolver.
Okay, can you explain to the audience what the Possible Club is?
All right, the Possible Club is a marksmanship course. It's based on practical police shooting. It's more of a target course, but it is on a silhouette, and it's a 60 round course, if I recall properly. But there are also, in that course of fire, there are 18 rounds that are fired from 50 yards. Um, 6 of them are fired from the prone position. 6 of them are fired from your strong side of the barricade. And the other 6 are fired with your opposite hand from the other side of the barricade. So you fire 18 rounds, but 6 of them are with your non firing hand. So I'm right handed. So I had to fire 6 shots from that distance with my left hand. And also, you fire another 6 shots at part of the stage of fire from the 25-yard line with your non-firing hand, with your left hand.
And all this course of fire that you're doing is all under time.
It is under time, and to give you a little bit more perspective on this, and this shows you how old this is. An old FBI course. So during this course, 60-round course, DEA issued you a 2x2 pouch, which carried 6 rounds on your belt. And you were allowed to use 1 speed loader. So, but you can never reuse that speed loader again during the course. So basically, you carried 48 rounds of loose ammo in your right front pocket and loaded those rounds 2 rounds at a time if you could grab 2 rounds at a time. So it was about as old school as you could get, but it was a traditional FBI course of fire that DEA had adopted, and they kept it probably the same way they were doing it from the 1930s or 40s.
Yeah, so for the audience, this to make the Possible Club is no joke. So if you're into shooting, go look up that course, take yourself out to the range, and have somebody time you, because this is a hard course. So being part of the Possible Club is pretty impressive.
It's one of my proudest accomplishments, only because I am a gun guy, right? And in the basement of the firearms vault at the FBI Academy, and I don't know if it's changed now. I was there about 3 years ago, 4 years ago, right before I retired. And you have all the people through the history of the FBI who've made it, and DEA has their own board,
Yep.
and your name's up there, so it's something to be proud about.
Yeah. As a firearms guy, I want to stay on this subject just for a second. I I was always, look, from the 50, it may not have been that practical, but I appreciated the fact that we had a course of fire that was pretty hard. Do you have any idea why they kind of dummied it down? Because that's what I figured. In my opinion, they did dummy it down, but why?
Well, there's a lot of opinions on this. The the 50 was important because if you made any errors shooting a pistol, they would come out at the 50-yard line for sure.
Yeah.
As distance goes back with a pistol, errors are magnified.
Yeah.
The other end of it, they said it wasn't practical. I would argue that if you go to a parking lot at a mall or a supermarket, 50 yards becomes somewhat practical. Now, maybe you won't take that shot because of bystanders and things of that nature, but having the confidence and the ability to do it is important. There's a lot of theories why they changed it.
Mhm.
The FBI changed their course before DEA did. We kept a modified course from the 50 for a long time after the FBI changed, and subsequently, like anything, different instructors or have different policies. I think some people felt it wasn't relevant, and so they moved it back to making 25 yards the furthest distance you shoot. Um, I think they made it easy. Uh, there's also the theory that's out there. It made it a little bit easier for people to qualify because
Yeah.
people may not know, and it's changed over different times. But when I went through the academy at week 6, you shot for your job.
Right.
If you did not qualify, you were given 4 hours of remedial instruction, and you were given the ability to qualify again. If you did not, you were sent home. That changed over the years till midway through the academy to the end of the academy. But they found out that was tragic. If somebody went through the academy
All right.
and didn't qualify at the very end, you just trained somebody and now you're telling them they can't be an agent.
Yeah.
So that wasn't a wise idea. So there's that theory that it was done like that because to get out of the academy, you had to shoot at a minimum of 80%, if I recall.
Yeah. And I always look, shooting from the 50, whether it's practical or not, I always appreciated the fact, kind of exactly what you're saying. If you make a mistake, it's going to be exacerbated. But one other thing is, you're a firearms instructor. I'm a firearms instructor. I know this has changed too, and I feel like they've kind of dummied this down, if I'm hearing it right. When you were a firearms instructor, you went back there, and if you didn't qualify, you were sent home, and you had to go through a course of fire that was pretty hard. Bullseye, one-handed,
Absolutely.
and
That's changed a little bit now too.
yeah, because I understand that not only is it maybe the course of fire has changed a little bit to become a fire instructor, but if you don't pass, then you're like a range helper as opposed to just getting sent home. Do you know, was that true or?
That I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know that for sure.
Okay.
So
I had just heard that they hadn't.
I could see it a way to supplement because it's a numbers game, right?
Yeah.
You need range safety officers, and you need to be able to conduct qualifications in the field. And if you're not getting people through,
Right.
you got to find probably, I guess, a little bit of way around it that has it, because you can be a range safety officer, maybe not necessarily be an instructor, but ensuring that the line is safe when people are out there. But I'm not sure of the details on that one.
Yeah, I just look at it the same way as if you're going to the academy and you're going through the PT and you haven't taken the time to get yourself in shape before then, what are you doing? And so it's the same thing that I always thought for the firearms thing, which is if you're going back to being a firearms instructor, because I know that my firearms instructor, my PFI, took it super seriously. If I'm going to put my reputation on the line and send you back as a firearms instructor, you better pass this before we even get back there.
Right. Well, the funny story about when I went to firearms instructor school. So I prepped for it, made it through the instructor's course, no issues. One-handed bullseye course with a revolver, and I chose a revolver because it was a little easier, I thought, than the semi-auto to do it. But a guy in my course, a real old timer, was going through the course. So when we go out to shoot, he pulls out of his case. He's got a Smith & Wesson. Now, sorry to get technical. Model 52B, which is a bullseye target pistol, chambered in 38 wad cutter, and they were like, "No, it's got to be a service weapon." So then he goes back to his case and pulls out a an end frame, which is a super heavy duty frame Smith & Wesson revolver with about an 8-inch barrel on it. And they're like, it has to be an authorized duty gun with the appropriate barrel length, because that revolver was authorized, but that barrel length was too short. So they finally they got him squared away. But he had it. He was working it all towards, and he had no problems. But
Yeah.
he was trying to be perfect.
Yeah, I figure if you're a super nerd like that and you've got all sorts of guns you brought back, you're going to do all right anyway.
Right.
Okay, so you get out of the academy and you, at the time, how does it work? Do you have a wish list? Are they, hey, you can pick for these 3 areas? Are they just going, Dante, you're going back to X?
So I'm sure they don't do this anymore because of the sensitivity training that goes around. But we turned in a wish list of your 3 top offices you're interested in going to. Now, we had an inside track because our class counselor had a very good friend who was an agent assignments, who said they would try and help out the members of our class, because we were such a good class, to go where they wanted to go. But when it came to the night that you were going to find out your assignment, and it was about, I'd say, midway through our academy training, we had to wear a coat and tie, go to our classroom, and each one would walk up individually to the front of class to be handed a sealed envelope. And you had to open that envelope in front of your class.
Really?
So you saw all sorts of reactions, not all of them good, but for the most part, most of the people got what we wanted.
Wow.
So on my list, if I recall right, I came from San Diego, so I put San Diego on the list. Probably number 1, thinking I'd never get it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I believe I put Phoenix on there, and probably Miami, because that was where all the action was happening. And I ended up getting San Diego, going back home.
In those days, was it common for you to get back to where you had hired on?
Very uncommon. I
Yeah.
think it was because of the connections of our class counselor, because almost everybody in our class got what they wanted.
Interesting. Interesting.
So
Okay.
it was a very, I don't know what you call it, but it was a very rudimentary, simple process.